Hi everyone, this is a quick video to give you some feedback on the portfolio exercise, and well done everyone. The quality overall was pretty good, and it's a very interesting exercise for me to be able to get to know you folks a bit better and understand where you're coming from, where you're headed, and where your needs are. So quite often you'll find at university we try to give you collective feedback wherever possible on your work, and that's just part of the reality of the scale of work that goes into marking, and we would love to give everyone sort of this amount of individual feedback, but the reality is the university only assigns a very limited amount of time to marking. So for instance, this assignment, you all got 12 minutes marking time for this particular assignment, which still ends up being about 40 hours marking at the end of the day. So I'm not telling you this to have a bit of a whinge or to have you feel sorry for me or anything like that, but just, I guess, to get across the scale at which marking has to happen at university, particularly at these large units with 200 or so students in them. And I guess the flip side is also that we're always available for further feedback. Almost no one ever takes us up on that. You might be surprised by that, but we are always available for further feedback if you want to discuss things in more depth. And at the end of the day, we have the logs, and we find that most students don't actually access their feedback from their assignments. Go figure. Every year when we have the surveys, students tell us we want more feedback, and when we actually look at the logs, the vast majority of students don't even look at the feedback that they get on their assignments. So please look at the feedback. It takes a long time to do, and it's costed into your education. So getting back to the point, it's much easier to give some overall comments than it is necessarily to try and carve into those whole 12 minutes we get to read, think about, and give feedback on this particular assignment. So my observation's not really in terms of things to improve for the assignment, because this was a pass-fail on each of the elements. You did it or you didn't do it. So that's not really a problem. But I guess it's to talk more about the role of portfolios going forward, because portfolios are something that are very, very important. It's sometimes something that students are skeptical about when we say they're very important, and they're things that you need to get started early and to think about early and to build early, because there's something you don't want to do in your last year. You can't do in your last year, and you certainly can't do in the just before you get a job interview or apply for a job. And portfolios are an important way in which you are able to get into that position where you're able to apply for a job and do well in an interview. So this is all very paternalistic, I know, and we're telling you, this is all for your own good, but honestly it is. And tragically, at least as far as the law program goes, I've had several students contact me who graduated a couple of years ago and saying, well, what can I do? I didn't really do anything extra during my degree. I didn't really think about it. I know you told me I should be thinking about these things, but I didn't, and now I've graduated. What can I do to try and become more employable? And it is very hard to pick up later on, because university is one of the places where you get these opportunities to develop and opportunities to engage with the learning community and extracurriculars and everything else. So I'll stop nagging now, but just everyone's in the same boat, and everyone thinks, oh look, this is something I can deal with later, this is something that I can pick up later on. And the reality is the people who are proactive right from the very beginning are the people who are prepared. So I've mentioned the point of portfolios earlier, and that's because largely jobs are now run on targeted selection criteria interviews. And there's a few stages. The first stage is you write a letter of application for a job, and you're asked to address each of the selection criteria. And if you haven't had a look at the selection criteria for jobs in your field, do it now. Have a look, because some of them are straightforward, might not be straightforward to evidence, but they're things you think, well, ability to meet deadlines and work on projects. You can go, well, I work on assignments, I can do this, and this can be evidence. But others are more intangible, and things like ability to work in groups, ability to work across a diverse range of stakeholders from a variety of cultures, and really, really odd things or difficult things like, understanding HR systems and occupational health and safety requirements and things that are always a bit of a stumper, unless you are lucky enough to have some kind of certificate in the field. So have a look at those criteria now, and you can start working towards the sorts of evidence you're going to need. And the ones that often stump people are the more intangible things. That they want you to show certain sets of values and certain sets of ideals. And this is where the ethos video becomes very important, to get you to start thinking about how are you going to demonstrate that you match the culture of an organisation, so that multiple layers of people, you have to get past a recruiter first. So someone who's working for a recruitment agency or the HR department looks at a huge pile of applications, and they may do a first pass on people's grades and say, okay, these people haven't got very good grades, and chuck those out straight away. But then they'll find that there's a range of people who have got reasonably good grades, and they then have to be able to sort, maybe 50 applicants down to 10 that they might interview, or maybe 4 that they're going to interview. So there's an important first culling stage that goes on with your application, where you're able to demonstrate on paper when they say, are you someone who can work as a self-directed person or work well in a team, where you need to be able to put something down really precise and something that'll capture the attention of someone who's read way too many of these things in the last few days, who'll go, oh yeah, okay, that looks reasonable. And skipping it isn't an option, and fudging it isn't an option. Just saying, oh well, I'm really good at working independently because I am. So they're looking for concrete evidence. And then if you do manage to get an interview, the next stage is they will ask you directly about these experiences in an interview panel. And they will say, tell us about a time that you demonstrated leadership in a team. And the classic one, tell us about the time that you went above and beyond to help a client or a customer or whatever. And the CQU form has that one as a compulsory. Everyone has to be asked, tell us about a time you went above and beyond. And if your response is, well, I just do what I get paid for, and I just believe in doing what I need to do for my job to get paid, that doesn't go down very well in interviews. So there's a couple of stages of which you need this preparation, and a portfolio not only provides evidence you can point people to, but it also means you're preparing and thinking ahead. And it means over the next few years, you might come up with there might be an opportunity that'll pop up to get involved with a group of students who are going to be involved in a community project, and you go, that's a really good thing to do because social innovation, that's really useful for the community. But number 2, hey, that'll actually produce an artifact at the end of the day that I can put in my portfolio, that when someone asks me what's a situation that I worked in a team, you can describe that, and you can talk about what the situation was and what you did and what the outcomes of it were. So those are things to think about going forward. And of course the dog has found his dog toy in the middle of all of this. So those are things to think about going forward. And I know a few people were concerned that they didn't have enough in their portfolio, particularly those of you who've just come out of high school, or you're the son students who are currently in high school. And that's true, because no one has enough in their portfolio. But this is an exercise for you to be able to identify the areas that you need to work on, and to develop a strategy around building those. So, everyone who put together their portfolio got the marks for their portfolio. And some people had really impressive things in there, and that was great. But they got the same marks as the people who were still in high school, who had a few certificates and had things that they'd done and things they'd achieved and volunteering they'd done. The real... Now I've got the lovely dog toy in front of me. just shows it how non-rehearsed these videos are, doesn't it? So yeah, have a plan about what you have going forward. Very pleased with the, and I've just got the toy drop back in my lap. It's the reason why I usually shut him out. Joys of working from home. I was pleased to see most people got their video together. Be really careful about making sure and I've made notes where relevant, that your permissions are set so people can view it. Okay, I gave people the benefit of the doubt this time where it was either a private video on YouTube, in which case it needs to be unlisted rather than private, which means that no one else can find it unless they've got the link, so you don't have to worry about randos viewing and, you know, trolling you. And the same with it's in a if it's in a G drive, you need to be able to set the permissions to anyone with the link can view. And again, only people with the link can view. Randos can't find it and start trolling you with that either. As I said, I gave you the benefit of the doubt, but others won't. So if you have to do videos for other assessment items and you don't have your permission set correctly, you'll just get 0 for it. And more seriously, if you go into a job situation and there's stuff that's locked in your portfolio, you won't get past the first stage. They're not going to contact you and say, "Oh, hello, applicant. Look, I'm really sorry, but we couldn't view your portfolio. We're wondering if you could actually set your permission so we could view it," or any of those things. It's just not going to happen. They're just going to put you in the bin. So remember, if you don't know how to do it, have a look at some of the materials, ask some questions on Teams. Make sure you're on top of that for the future, for when it becomes very serious and people are not going to contact you and give you the benefit of the doubt. So yeah, the videos were good. Some of you guys looked like you had a gun to your head off screen and you were doing a hostage video, but that is fine, because this is how you get used to it. And I tell you, my first videos were terrible. You might think these ones are terrible with all the dog interventions and everything else, but no, my first videos were like that. They looked like hostage videos, but that's fine. You got the marks just for doing the video, and the important thing is that experience and getting used to the format. And as we've seen this year, being able to work in a digital way is an important skill. It's going to become increasingly important in the future. So yep, my overall feedback is that I was very pleased with what I saw, very interested in what I saw. Portfolio, yeah, is a bit of a mess, and if I'd had some time to look at it before the term started, it's back again, I would have definitely gone a different way. If you want to maintain you should maintain your portfolio, of course. You are able to do it in Portfolium now and going forward if you want to, but you can use a different method. So there's lots of free website services out there. You can use one of those to create a portfolio. You can create a portfolio that's a text one that's linked into your LinkedIn account. LinkedIn doesn't really work as a portfolio for lots of reasons, so you can't really necessarily just send someone your LinkedIn account. There's problems with it, but you can attach a portfolio to your LinkedIn account. So you do have other options, and definitely the criminology students, we're going to come back to tasks for your portfolio in later years. So it's going to be, you know, something that's important to maintain and to be aware of for your studies. But also the most important thing is that it shows your engagement with where you're going with your career, and that you're becoming job ready. And that's something that's very, very important at the moment. All right, talk to you folks again soon.